Rejected for her miracle of triplets, a hidden rancher's touch revealed an amazing lifeline. Mary wasn't just a single mother, she was a warrior. At 32 and living in a small Texas town, she thought life had thrown her challenges enough. But then came the unexpected arrival of triplets, shaking her world. As she cradled her 3 little bundles of joy in her arms, tears welled in her eyes not just from happiness, but from the crushing weight of financial worry that tightened her chest like a vice. She could barely afford the basics, let alone diapers, formula, or the medical bills that loomed over her like a dark cloud. Little did she know that fate had other plans when she reached out for help. The charity she trusted, the one that promised to support struggling families, turned her away with a bureaucratic shrug. Her heart plummeted into an abyss of hopelessness. Rejected, the word echoed in her mind, laced with the judgment of those who thought her situation defined her parenting abilities. How could anyone understand the fierce love she had for her children amidst the chaos? Day by day, Mary juggled 2 jobs, serving coffee at the local diner, and stocking shelves at the convenience store. The hours slipped by in a blur, each second peppered with the cries of her triplets and a nagging sense of invisibility. She barely scraped by, finding strength only in the tiny smiles from her children. Word on the street spoke of Jack, the reclusive rancher known for his heart of gold. A local war veteran, he carried the scars of his past like a heavy winter coat, wrapped deep around him. Town gossip labeled him broken, and Mary couldn't help but wonder if he was someone worth reaching out to in her darkest hour. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Weeks dripped into a slow crawl, and then disaster struck. A fierce storm rolled in, darkening the sky as if the world itself had conspired against her. Wind howled through the shabby walls of her crumbling home. Just when she thought things couldn't get worse, the floodwaters encroached. Heart racing, she clutched her babies, praying for safety. It was during the aftermath that Jack's name began to surface again. He didn't make a show of it, but whispered acts of kindness spread like wildfire, helping with cleanups, bringing food to those in need, and quietly tending to others' damage. When her gaze met his for the first time, the air crackled with unaccounted feelings. Could someone like him ever understand her burden? Or would he too fall into the tangled web of gossip that surrounded them? Things began to shift in the town. People united, lending hands, literally rewriting the narrative. Yet Mary found herself at a crossroads. The idea of relying on Jack felt foreign, the fear of vulnerability clawed at her, breeding both hope and resistance. Was it another rejection waiting to happen? The very thought knocked the breath from her lungs. As the skies cleared, revealing a bright day for the town, Mary stood at the cusp of a vital decision. Would she dare to reach for the lifeline that Jack offered, or continue to fight this daunting battle on her own? The answer was just out of reach, leaving her heart pounding with the thrilling uncertainty of new beginnings. The sun spilled golden light across the Texas plains, painting everything in warm hues. After the storm, the air felt fresh, almost electric with renewed hope. Mary stood at her doorstep, taking in the scene, a town gradually healing, neighbors helping one another, and children laughing in distant yards. Yet, even amongst the joy, her heart remained heavy, battling a tempest of anxiety and fear. She held one of the triplets, little Emma, cradled snugly against her chest. The sweet smell of baby shampoo and the softness of her tiny fingers coiled around Mary's heart, reminding her of why she had to fight. "I can do this," she whispered to Emma, though inside uncertainty coiled tightly like a spring. How many times had she told herself that? "I just need to be strong just a little more time." With a deep breath, she took her first step down that rickety porch, heading toward town. The routine felt the same, yet there was something different in the air. Her neighbors greeted her with smiles, offering words of encouragement. The buzz of chatter surrounded her, punctuated by laughter, yet the thought of reaching out to Jack lingered in her mind like a siren's song. While she stocked the shelves at the convenience store, a familiar face walked in. It was Mrs. Delaney, the kind old lady who lived 2 streets over. "Mary, my dear." Mrs. Delaney beamed. "You know, I can spare a few bags of clothes for those little ones of yours. They grow up so fast." Her eyes sparkled with warmth, providing a small beacon of support. "Thank you, Mrs. Delaney." Mary felt the cringe of her pride, but it was quickly overshadowed by gratitude. In this moment, she realized something vital: community wasn't just about giving, it was about receiving too. But could she trust Jack as part of her community? Trust had been a rare commodity since the triplets came into her life. As she pushed through the day, each moment felt like a test of courage. The idea of asking for help felt like standing on the edge of a plunging cliff. Yet the whisper of what if echoed in her mind. What if Jack truly could offer the lifeline she so desperately needed? When she returned home later that evening, drained from the day yet filled with an invisible energy, she spotted Jack tooling around his ranch down the road. He looked solitary, yet determined, a figure steeped in both strength and vulnerability. Gathering her thoughts and clenching her jaw, Mary decided it was time to finally bridge the chasm between them. This moment ignited a flicker of hope inside her like a flame kindling in the dark. She took a deep breath, holding Emma tightly and cradling the twins in her other arm. Nothing ventured, nothing gained, she muttered to herself, the weight of her fears only slightly lessened by the resolve growing within her. As she approached, Jack looked up, and for an instant, the world around them faded. His expression shifted from surprise to curiosity, as though he saw a challenge and an invitation in her eyes. The moment stretched, thick with unspoken words, as the weight of her intentions hung in the air. "Jack," she began, her voice trembling ever so slightly, "I need to talk to you about my twins." With those words, the possibility of connection hovered between them. But would he truly understand her struggles, or would he pull away like everyone else? The air crackled, both of them standing on the precipice of something beyond their control. Could their meeting spark the beginning of a new chapter in both of their lives? Would reaching out change everything, or would it end in another rejection? Mary held her breath, anxiously waiting for Jack's response. Jack's brow furrowed as he absorbed Mary's words. The evening light cast soft shadows on his rugged features, emphasizing a worry that mirrored her own. "About the twins?" he echoed, his voice low and steady. The world around them felt suspended, as if time itself understood the weight of their moment. "Yeah, She hesitated, searching his expression for any sign of understanding. "I've been trying to cope on my own, but it's hard. Really hard." The admission tumbled out, heavy with the sorrow and stress of sleepless nights and frantic days filled with juggling diaper changes and feedings. She could almost see Jack processing that, the gears in his mind clicking into place. A tense silence enveloped them. Just then, the wind rustled the leaves, the sound breaking the spell and sending a shiver down her spine. She glanced at Emma, the baby's soft breaths reassuring her. "I thought maybe you could help. I know we don't know each other well, but you're a good man. I see that in how you're always willing to lend a hand around the community." Jack shifted his weight, his hands finding their way to his hips. "I'm not sure how much I can do, Mary. I mean, I've seen you work through everything. You're strong. I just don't want to what? Pretend I don't need help." The words slipped out sharper than intended, but the truth lay heavy in her throat. "I'm exhausted. And honestly, I'm scared. I can't keep doing this alone." He looked away, the distant hills casting a somber backdrop against them. "I've been avoiding getting too close to anyone lately. I've got my own mess to sort through." Mary felt her heart clench. "I get it. Fear can hold us back. But that's just it, isn't it? We can be scared together, we can face our stuff as a team." Turning back to her, Jack's eyes searched hers, warmth beginning to replace doubt. "What do you need?" The question caught her off guard, she hadn't truly expected him to step forward. Hope fluttered in her chest, igniting something deep inside. Could you help with the twins? I'd need to run errands, get supplies, or maybe just find a moment to breathe. Sure, he said, his voice gaining strength. I can help with that. It's not much, but I can keep an eye on them while you step out. Maybe even he chuckled softly. I've raised cattle, how much harder can it be to watch 3 little girls? Mary couldn't help but smile, the initial tension easing into a bond that felt fresh and new. It was a tentative thread, but enough to weave something together. Thank you, Jack. Really, this means so much. Jack nodded, a hint of a smile tugging at the corner of his mouth. Let us see where this goes then. As the sun dipped lower, shadows stretched across the ground, and they found themselves sharing stories about their lives, the words flowing easily. For the first time in a long while, Mary felt the burden on her heart lighten, if only a fraction. But just as laughter began to fill the space between them, the sound of a motorcycle roared in the distance, interrupting the newfound warmth. Mary's heart dropped. Oh no, not him, she murmured, sensing trouble before she even turned. Jack's expression darkened as Mary's pulse quickened. Would the arrival of the unwelcome guest shatter the moment they had begun to build, or could it serve as a catalyst for something greater? She held her breath, bracing for the oncoming storm. The motorcycle roared closer, cutting through the evening with a menacing growl. Mary's stomach twisted, her instincts screaming at her to protect the moment she had just begun to cherish. Jack shifted beside her, his body tense and ready, as if he could sense the storm brewing. The ride came to a halt a few yards down the road, settling in front of the small wooden fence that surrounded her yard. The rider turned off the engine, and Mary could see the silhouette of a man dismounting. The helmet came off, revealing dark, unruly hair and a face she recognized all too well. It's him, she whispered, dread curling around her heart. Jack's gaze sharpened, and he stepped a fraction closer to her, a silent promise to stand by her side. Who is he? Ethan, Mary replied, her voice barely above a breath. He-s. She hesitated, searching for the right words. He-s the father of my twins. But it's complicated. Jack's frown deepened, a silent vow etched on his face to protect her from whatever was coming. Complicated how? Mary's eyes stayed glued to Ethan, who was now strolling toward them with a swagger that made her heart race for all the wrong reasons. He left when I told him I was pregnant, she said, each word a weight, and only came back when it suited him. Now he thinks he can just waltz in and take over. Beneath the calm surface, Mary felt an ocean of emotions. Fear, anger, the remnants of love that had once clouded her judgment. Ethan stopped a few feet from them, his eyes locking onto Mary's with a charm that made her both irate and uneasy. Mary, he said, his voice smooth, I've been looking for you. Why now? She shot back, her heart racing. You didn't even care to know if I was okay when I needed you. Jack took another step forward, positioning himself slightly in front of Mary, a protective barrier. You should leave, he said firmly, his voice steady and low. Ethan's gaze flicked toward Jack, surprise and irritation mingling on his face. Who's this? Your new boyfriend? Didn't expect you to settle so quickly, Mary. Not that it's any of your business, Mary said, her voice regaining strength, but Jack is here because he cares, something you wouldn't know anything about. Ethan smirked as if her words were a joke rather than a warning. Caring? That's rich. You think he can play dad while you're stuck in the past? Jack held Mary's gaze, his eyes brimming with an understanding that made her pulse hammer. She felt the fragility of what they were building, but it also ignited a defiance within her. I'm not stuck in anything, she challenged, stepping alongside Jack. I'm trying to do what's best for my girls. And if you can't respect that, you don't belong here. Ethan's expression darkened, recognizing the new strength in her eyes. You think you can just push me away? I want to be part of my children's lives. Mary took a deep breath, standing her ground. You can't just drop by when it's convenient for you. You've done nothing but harm us. Our lives don't revolve around your whims anymore. The tension crackled between them, heavy and charged. Jack remained by her side, his presence a comforting weight that pushed back the shadows of her past. You don't know the first thing about being a father, Jack said, his voice sharper now. But if you want to step up, you'll show some respect. Starting now. Ethan crossed his arms, ready to retaliate, but Mary caught Jack's eye again, their unspoken agreement growing stronger. They would face this together. The wind picked up again, rustling the leaves once more, filling the silence with a sense of impending change. I'll be back, Ethan finally spat, turning on his heel. The motorcycle roared to life once more, and he sped off, leaving only dust in his wake. As the echoes faded, the air was charged with unresolved tension. Mary turned to Jack, their faces inches apart. What now? Jack met her gaze, a gentle smile breaking through. We keep moving forward, he said softly. Together. But deep down, the question lingered. Would Ethan truly give up that easily? And how would that affect the fragile bond they were starting to form? Mary could feel the storm battering at their door, and the uncertainty weighed down on her heart. Mary watched as the dust settled from Ethan's departure, the remnants of his motorcycle lingering in the air like the ghost of a storm that had just passed. Her heart raced, uncertainty pooling in her stomach while Jack stood resolutely beside her, an anchor in this turbulent sea of emotions. Are you okay? He asked, concern etched in his brow as he searched her face for signs of distress. I thought I was, she admitted, her voice trembling. But seeing him, it just brings everything rushing back. The walls she carefully built around her heart felt paper thin. We can take a step back if you need, Jack suggested gently. This isn't easy for you. Mary shook her head, knowing that retreating would only give Ethan more power. No. I can't let him have that control over me anymore. Jack nodded, but there was something in his eyes, a flicker of worry that made her take a deep breath. You're stronger than you know, Mary. Don't forget that. The night began to darken, the glow of the street lamps illuminating the path ahead, creating a cocoon of warmth that felt strangely comforting. Yet the chill of doubt crept back in as she reflected on Ethan's words. What does he think he knows about being a father? She murmured, bitterness creeping into her tone. Probably more than he lets on, Jack replied, his jaw tightening. But the past is the past. Mary turned to Jack, her heart swelling with gratitude. Thank you for standing by me. For being here when I'm feeling vulnerable. He smiled softly. I'll always be here, Mary. But the reassurance felt fragile, like the delicate glass ornaments her mother had kept stored away, beautiful but so easily shattered. What if Ethan returned? Would Jack still be here then? Can we talk about the twins? Jack asked, breaking through her spiraling thoughts. How are they handling all of this? Mary's face lit up as she thought about her girls, the joy they brought her overshadowing the darkness of her past. They're amazing, really. Just started getting into arts and crafts. You should see the glitter explosion that was our living room earlier. She laughed, the sound warming the evening chill. Jack chuckled, his body relaxing. Sounds like a wild time. I bet they loved it. They did, she smiled, picturing the glitter in their hair, the joy in their eyes. But I'm worried about how they'll handle Ethan. They don't need any more instability in their lives. I understand, Jack replied, his tone serious. But they have you. As long as you're there, they'll feel safe. Will they? Mary whispered, the weight of her doubt slipping back in. Ethan doesn't care about anything but himself. Then we'll show them what true family looks like, Jack said firmly, taking her hand in his, the warmth radiating through her. We'll make it through this together. As they stood in the heart of uncertainty, his faith in their little family ignited a flicker of hope. But beneath it all, she could still hear the echoes of Ethan's threat. The thought of him returning loomed ominously overhead. Suddenly, the sound of tires crunching against gravel pulled Mary from her thoughts. She squinted down the street, her heart racing again. What if it was Ethan? She took a step back, ready to shield the precious moment she had with Jack, but as the familiar headlights illuminated her yard, it became clear, it was a different vehicle, one she recognized. It was Sarah, her best friend. Relief washed over her as she waved to the approaching figure. "Hey! I came to check on you," Sarah called out, hopping out of the car. But her smile faltered as she took in the tension evident between them. "Is everything okay?" Sarah asked, concern etched on her features. Mary opened her mouth to respond, but her heart felt like it was balancing on a knife's edge. Could she let everyone in on this chaos? Would Sarah understand what it was like to feel under siege? "Just a little complication with the past," she said cautiously, glancing at Jack and seeing the worry mirrored on his face. "Complication or a huge mess?" Sarah pressed, sensing the weight of the moment. Jack took a breath, ready to share their truth. But Mary felt the familiar twist in her stomach, the uncertainty bubbling back to the surface. Would sharing draw them closer, or would it threaten everything they were building? "Just a mess," Mary finally said, her voice firm. "But we're going to fix things. With time." "Let us face it together then," Jack said softly, squeezing her hand. Mary nodded, but the unresolved fear tightened its grip around her heart. As Sarah approached, Mary knew their lives were about to change, but she couldn't shake the feeling that Ethan was just waiting for the right moment to strike again. She inhaled deeply, reminding herself that this time, she wouldn't let him control her. But as her gaze drifted back to the road, she couldn't help but wonder if she was truly ready for what could come next. What if Ethan's return was just the beginning? Mary felt the air thicken with unspoken words as Sarah stepped closer, her expression a mixture of concern and curiosity. Mary wanted to open up, to spill the tempest brewing inside her, but she hesitated. What if it poured out in a flood she couldn't control? "Mary, you look shaken," Sarah observed, her voice softening. "What is going on?" Jack's hand remained wrapped around Mary's, the strength of his grip grounding her. She took a breath, summoning all the courage she could muster. Ethan showed up. The admission hung in the air, as heavy as a storm cloud. Sarah's eyes widened. "Ethan? Your ex?" "Yeah." The knot in Mary's stomach twisted tighter. He's back." Sarah's eyebrows knitted together, and for a moment, it felt like an entire conversation passed between them in silence. "You shouldn't have to deal with this alone." "I'm not alone," Mary quickly replied, glancing at Jack, the certainty of his presence just enough to ease some of her tension. "Jack's here." "Good. Because I don't trust that guy," Sarah said, an edge creeping into her voice. "He's unstable. You know that." Mary nodded, but the frustration bubbled up again. "You think I don't know that? But I can't let him dictate my future." "I need to protect the girls," Jack interjected gently, a fire of determination in his eyes. "And to protect yourself." It felt like a dam breaking inside her, all the worry and dread flooding out. "What if he tries to take them from me?" The fear dripped from her words, vulnerability spilling forth. "You're their mother," Sarah said firmly. "He has no right to come back into your lives and tear everything apart. We'll figure it out. Together." She wanted to believe that. The words wrapped around her like a lifeline, but the past was a haunting specter that wouldn't easily let go. "I thought I could handle everything on my own," but she looked at Jack, whose gaze anchored her, and at Sarah, who held her difficult truth with care. "Maybe I need help." "Of course, you do," Jack reassured her. "You've been through so much. It's okay to lean on us." "Real friends don't let you fall," Sarah chimed in, determination infused in her voice. "We'll be right there, whatever happens. You're not in this alone anymore." They stood there, a trio entangled in unwavering support, and for the first time since Ethan had emerged from her past, Mary felt a flicker of hope. It was still tiny, but it was there like a candle fighting against the dark. Then a sudden noise drew their attention, the unmistakable roar of a motorcycle engine, cutting through the quiet night. Mary's heart dropped as she instinctively moved closer to Jack. "Is that Sarah?" began, anxiety creeping into her tone. "That's him," Mary whispered, dread blooming in her chest. Jack's grip tightened like iron around her hand, a silent pledge of protection. Mary's mind raced, she wasn't sure she was ready for another encounter. Part of her wanted to run, to hide away from the truth that was barreling toward them. The motorcycle came into view, headlights blinding as it turned into her driveway. Each rev of the engine sent shockwaves of fear through her, a reminder that her world was about to shift yet again. Ethan emerged from the shadows, towering and confident, his face carved into a sinister grin. "Mary," he called, his voice smooth but wrapped in menace. "We need to talk." In that moment, the fragile hope she had only just begun to grasp slipped through her fingers like grains of sand. She stood at the edge of something vast and sprawling, the uncertainty expanding like a horizon filled with dark clouds. What did he want now? As his eyes locked with hers, she felt the weight of the moment, knowing the forthcoming conversation could alter everything. Would she find the strength to stand her ground this time? Ethan took a step closer, his smirk deepening as he towered over them. The air crackled with tension. Mary's heart raced, refusing to succumb to the fear curling in her stomach. She was done being afraid. She had to be. "Let us not make this harder than it needs to be," he said, his tone almost casual, as if he were discussing the weather instead of addressing a storm brewing between them. Jack subtly shifted in front of Mary, providing a shield. "You shouldn't be here, Ethan," he said, his voice steady but laced with a protective edge. "You don't get to just walk back into her life. Is that right?" Ethan's eyes darted between Jack and Mary, a frustrated flicker appearing briefly on his face. "Mary and I have unfinished business." He looked directly at Mary, and the pit in her stomach twisted anew. "You and I need to talk about the girls." "No," she said, surprised at the clarity of her voice. "This isn't like before. You lost your chance when you left." Ethan's expression soured, the playful mask slipping. "I was wrong. I can change. I want to be there for the girls. For you." Jack stepped farther forward, clearly unwilling to let Ethan manipulate their moment. "And why should we believe you? Your history speaks volumes. You hurt her once, you think you can just show up and claim you're a better man?" Mary could see the anger brewing in Jack's eyes. She felt both grateful and overwhelmed. "Jack, wait," she started, wanting to intervene, to keep the peace, but Ethan raised a hand to cut her off. "I don't need to explain myself to you, Jack. This is about Mary." He turned back to her, his tone softening. "I want to meet them. I want a chance to be a father." The very mention of her daughters made Mary's heart clench painfully. "You think this is about you?" she demanded, her voice quivering with disbelief. "You haven't been there for them, Ethan. You can't just walk back in and assume you have rights." Sarah chimed in, positioning herself next to Jack, her gaze fierce. "Mary is their mother, and she has done a great job on her own. You don't get to just decide when it's convenient for you." Ethan's demeanor shifted again, frustration evident as he clenched his fists. "You don't know what I've been through. I'm back to make things right. Let me prove it." Mary looked at the ground, her heart racing, caught in a web of memories, the good, the bad, and the terrifying. "Prove yourself? You think it's that easy? Just because you say you want to try? I can't jeopardize their stability for your ego." Mary, his voice dropped to a whisper, longing mingling with anger. "Think about what you're doing. They're my daughters too. Just give me a chance, that's all I ask." Her heart burned at the desperation in his voice but also the disbelief that clawed at her. "A chance?" she echoed mockingly, feeling the walls she'd built around her heart begin to shake. "You threw that chance away. You can't just show up and expect everything to be okay. Silence enveloped them, thick and heavy. Ethan's gaze held a mixture of desperation and pride, and as she glanced at Jack and Sarah, she felt their unwavering support. "Mary," Jack said, his voice steady as he leaned closer. "This is your choice. Remember, you're in control. If you need us to help you with whatever decision you make, we're right here." With a deep breath, she squared her shoulders, confronting the chaos inside her. The moment felt like a tightrope walk, every option open but so incredibly risky. Just as she opened her mouth to speak, the sound of her children laughing in the distance drifted through the night. At that moment, her heart swelled with clarity. She knew what she had to protect. But was she ready to confront the past and make the potential of her future known? "Maybe we should sit down and talk," she finally said, her voice firm but trembling. "But it's going to be on my terms." Ethan's expression shifted from surprise to determination. "Okay. I'll take what I can get." As they stood frozen in this fraught moment, Mary realized the coming storm wasn't just Ethan, it was the reckoning of her choices, her fears, and ultimately, her strength. But what if confronting her past also meant revealing secrets she wasn't ready to share? Would this turbulent reunion bring peace or further unravel everything she had fought to protect? The sun dipped low in the sky, casting elongated shadows across the grassy yard where Mary's children played. The laughter hung in the air, sweet yet distant, almost like a lullaby she hadn't known she needed. She turned back to Ethan, feeling the weight of his gaze as he processed her words. "On your terms?" he repeated, as if testing the phrase on his tongue. "What does that mean, Mary?" She took a step back, needing space to gather her thoughts. "It means you'll tell me why you want to be involved now. You need to be honest. No more games. No more empty promises." Ethan's brow furrowed, his bravado fading. "I want to make this right. I mean it." His voice was softer, more vulnerable, but Mary wasn't ready to let herself hope. "You think saying that is enough? You can't just show up and think the past will disappear. My girls deserve more than half-hearted attempts. They deserve stability, and you need to prove to me that you can give them that before I let you back in." "I will." His voice rose, urgency punctuating his words. "You don't understand the demons I've faced. I had to get my life in order first. I didn't want to bring that chaos into yours." Mary almost felt empathy clawing at her insides, but she forced it down. Beneath the bravado, the man before her was still the person she once loved and hated. "So you decided to leave when things got tough?" she challenged, her heart racing. "You thought that was the right way to handle your responsibilities? You left me to pick up the pieces alone." Ethan's features darkened. "Don't you think I know that? You think this has been easy for me? I've watched from a distance, regretting every decision." Mary's throat tightened. It took everything not to reach out to him, to feel the connection that had once tethered their lives together. "Regrets don't matter if you can't act on them, Ethan." Silence settled like a heavy fog, wrapping around each of them as they weighed the moment. Ethan looked at her, searching her eyes for understanding, for a signal to proceed. "Let me meet them," he finally said, his voice steady yet pleading. "To show them who I am now. They deserve that choice. If you still want me out of their lives after that, I'll respect it." Her heart twisted in conflicting directions. Part of her wanted to shield her daughters from the storm Ethan had created, but another part yearned for them to have a father, even if it was risky. "Fine," she replied, feeling both resolve and fear. "But this meeting will happen on my turf, and if you cross any lines, I won't hesitate to cut you off for good." A flicker of something relief. Hope passed over Ethan's features. "That's all I ask. No lines will be crossed." "Good," Mary echoed, though her thoughts churned with uncertainty. The laughter from the yard drifted closer, reminding her of what truly mattered. She stepped toward the sound, tugging Jack and Sarah along as she turned to Ethan one last time. In the meantime, keep your distance. I will let you know when this meeting will happen, she said, trying to keep her tone firm. Ethan nodded, the weight of their agreement hanging heavily. As she walked back to her children, the sun finally dipped below the horizon, leaving the world steeped in twilight. But as Mary turned to catch her daughter's laughter, her heart pounded with trepidation. Would this decision open a door she couldn't fully close? The evening felt like the calm before a storm, and as Mary took a moment to breathe, she realized the greatest battles might not be what lay ahead but what lingered in her heart. What if the truth about Ethan was not just about him, but about her too? What was she truly willing to risk? The next few days felt like walking a tightrope for Mary. She tried to maintain normalcy for Jack and Sarah, but inside her, a storm brewed. Each time she looked at Ethan's number on her phone, she felt a pang of anxiety mixed with the remnants of old love. Evenings were the hardest. After tucking her children into bed, the house would settle into a silence so profound that it felt alive. Mary often found herself lost in thought, replaying their conversation over and over. What had he meant by wanting to make things right? Was he truly changed, or was this just another performance from a man who had always been good at putting on a show? One night, as she sat on the worn couch with a book in her hands, the words blurred together. The rain tapped a rhythmic tune against the windows, mirroring the thumping of her heart. The doorbell's chime startled her out of her thoughts. She set the book aside, hesitating. Who could it be at this hour? With a cautious step, she approached the door, peering through the peephole. Relief washed over her as she saw Jill, her neighbor and close friend. She opened the door, a smile breaking through her concern. "Hey. I was just thinking of you," Mary said, her voice brightening. Jill stepped inside, shaking off an umbrella. "With the rain and everything, I thought I'd check in. You okay?" Mary nodded, but her eyes betrayed her. "Honestly? I've been better. Ethan is back in the picture, and it's complicated." "Ugh, I can only imagine," Jill replied, settling on the couch. "You're so strong for even considering this. But are you sure you're ready for the fallout? Part of me just wants to push him away again." But the girls. Mary sighed heavily, running a hand through her hair. "They deserve to at least know their father. Or do they deserve to be shielded from someone who hurt you both?" Jill's question hung in the air, and Mary felt her throat tighten again. She wanted to scream that it wasn't just about her, it was about her daughters too. They were innocent in all this, and they had already suffered enough. "Maybe that's the question I need to answer," Mary admitted slowly. "What if he doesn't change? What if I expose them to unfulfilled promises and heartbreak?" Jill's eyes softened, filled with understanding. "You know I've got your back, whatever you decide. But don't forget to think of yourself too. You deserve peace." The storm outside intensified, thunder rumbling ominously as Mary considered the weight of Jill's words. A quiet voice in her heart whispered that she needed to find closure. "Can we talk about the girls?" She directed the conversation, settling more comfortably into the couch. "What do you think will be best for them? Honestly? If you feel this meeting is going to help, then it should happen. They deserve to meet their father. Even if things don't go as planned, at least you'll know for sure. You can control the situation." The conversation soothed Mary's nerves somewhat, but even as Jill spoke reassuringly, a knot remained in her stomach. What if the meeting pushed Ethan and Mary further into a path she wasn't ready to walk? Suddenly, the doorbell rang again. Mary froze. Jill looked at her with wide eyes. "That wasn't me." Heart pounding, Mary walked to the door and looked through the peephole. This time, her pulse raced with dread. It was Ethan. With a glance back at Jill, Mary opened the door slowly. Ethan stood there, his expression a mixture of resolve and vulnerability, as if he had come to deliver a message. "Mary, I need to talk to you," he said, gripping the doorframe as if it were a lifeline. The air between them buzzed with unresolved tension. Would this be a moment of reckoning, or could it set off an even bigger storm? Ethan's arrival felt like a shake-up of everything she had tried to stabilize. This wasn't just a meeting to discuss their past, it could impact not only their lives but also their daughters' futures. "Come in," Mary finally said, her heart thumping louder than the rain outside. But deep down, she wondered, could she really handle the truth behind his sudden appearance, and what it could mean for all of them? Ethan stepped inside, the weight of his presence filling the small hallway. Mary felt her heart thrumming loudly in her chest as she closed the door, the click echoing in the stillness. Jack and Sarah's support felt distant, yet she could still sense their presence just behind her, ready to step in. "Let's talk," Ethan said, his voice steady but laced with desperation. Mary nodded, leading him to the living room where the soft glow of the lamp cast warm light over the space. But it felt cold between them, the air thick with history and unspoken words. Jill stood up, unsure of how to navigate this new dynamic. "I'll give you some space," she said quietly before slipping out, leaving just the three of them. Mary gestured for Ethan to sit, but he remained standing, shifting his weight from foot to foot as if unsure of his footing. "Mary, I know you're still angry," he started, an earnestness in his eyes. "But I came here to try to genuinely show you that I can be a part of our girls' lives. You think this is enough?" She challenged, crossing her arms defensively. "Showing up after all this time and hoping everything will just be fixed." Ethan sighed heavily, running a hand through his hair, an old habit she recalled all too well. "I messed up, I get that. But I've been working on myself. I want to prove that I'm different." The words felt hollow, yet she couldn't deny they struck a chord deep within her. "You think just saying that makes it true?" She pressed, inhaling sharply. "Actions speak louder than words, Ethan." Jack, who had been quiet, finally spoke up. "What exactly are you asking for here, Ethan? We need to understand what you mean by wanting to be involved. The past isn't just going to disappear because you want it to." Ethan met Jack's gaze, seemingly taken aback by the direct confrontation. "I want to be there for them, I want to be their father. I know I wasn't there before, but I want to change this time." Mary felt the surge of emotions wash over her: hope, anger, and doubt. "Change doesn't happen overnight," she reminded him softly, feeling her resolve shaking. "What do you know about being a dad that you didn't before you left?" Ethan's expression shifted subtly, revealing vulnerability. "I've seen what not being there does. I've met people who showed me the value of family. And it hurt, painful lessons I wouldn't wish on anyone. Please, just give me a chance to show you." A lump formed in her throat. The bitterness mixed with the flicker of longing. Could she dare hope this was real? "Mary," Jack interrupted gently, sensing her internal struggle. "It's your call. But remember that you have the power to protect your daughters, and you don't have to rush into any decisions." A silence fell again, heavy but crucial as Mary wrestled with the turmoil within. "We can meet, set some boundaries," she finally said hesitantly, her heart pounding. "But you have to respect that this is about my girls, not you." Ethan nodded earnestly. "Absolutely. I just want to talk to them, explain who I am now. They deserve to hear my side. And if anything feels off, if they're uncomfortable." Mary pressed, needing reassurance to bind the fragile hope in her heart. "I cannot jeopardize their safety for the sake of your redemption." "I won't overstep," he promised, sincerity shining in his eyes. "I truly want to prove that I can be there for them." With every fiber of her being, Mary fought to stay focused on her daughters. "We'll meet, but it will be on my terms," she declared firmly, drawing strength from Jack and Sarah's unwavering support, even from afar. "We'll figure this out together." Ethan took a step back, relief washing over him, but Mary felt the storm still brewing inside. This wasn't just about him anymore, it was about her too. With the agreement hanging in the air, they sat down together, tilting the dialogue toward direction, expectations, and hope. As the night unfolded, with each honest word, Mary found pieces of herself that she thought had been lost, the mother spirit awakened and fierce alongside the vulnerability of her past. When they finally reached an understanding, a tentative bridge built between a past filled with pain and a future she couldn't yet see, there was a collective breath of relief. But Mary's heart still raced, knowing this was just the beginning. The school of life demanded hard lessons, and she was ready to take the plunge. "Thank you for coming, Ethan," she said, finding strength in her voice. "And know that I'm giving you this opportunity cautiously. We'll take it slow." As Ethan nodded, something shifted in her heart. She was still scared, but there was a glimmer of hope as she realized she was finally in control of her narrative. Walking away from the past wouldn't be easy, but forging a new path for her daughters felt like the right step. With all of them together, they would step toward the uncertain future, one thoughtful decision at a time. And deep down, she knew that real family didn't just form from blood but through love and connection. As dawn broke the next day, splashing golden light across the Texas plains, Mary felt the warmth of new beginnings. Now more than ever, she was ready to embrace whatever came next. This was not just a transformation, it was healing, growth, and loving fearlessly. You need to subscribe now for the next exclusive journey that unfolds. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and help us grow. Comment below with your thoughts on this unexpected reunion, and what you believe will happen next. And don't wait not even one more second to share this story with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Let us spark hope together.